And let me, okay. Can you see my screen?
All right, I can see. Excellent.
Perfect, thank
Okay.
you. Okay, so maybe I'll just go through the agenda real quick. We'll begin with activations. What exactly does it mean to activate resources for CDI, and how to make sure that your users get what you want them to see? We'll continue with matching records in CDI. So how do we get different records for these sources that you activated? And we'll conclude with questions and troubleshooting. I know it seems kind of a short agenda, but you'll be surprised what we can cram in the next 50 minutes. So let's start with CDI activations. Lieve, what do we really need to do to make sure that the discovery search box works well for my users? I mean, if we buy a new collection and want the users to see it when they search via the discovery UI, then we know that this collection has a title level metadata in Alma. That's where it's managed for the title level, but the users want to see the records, right? So what exactly do we need to do to make them see the record level in CDI searches?
We'll take Alma as an example here, but the same applies to all the other products, to SFX and 360. What you need to do is you should just activate the collection by using the Alma activation wizard. And this will activate the collection and its portfolios selectively or all of them with the recommended and correct CDI settings. So activating in Alma will automatically make sure that you find the corresponding CDI records in your discovery search box, including the articles, the book chapters, and it will make sure that you can link correctly to the full text. Just make sure that your CDI publishing profile in Alma is active. This will make sure that Alma and CDI are talking.
So just to be sure about this, when you want the records to appear in CDI, all you need to do is activate the corresponding collection in the knowledge bases, either Alma, SFX, or 360, and then you simply get the records in CDI. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, that's it. So this is why we call it CDI single activation. You activate once, and that can be in Alma, 360, or SFX, depending on the product. And it will ensure that the collection is available for both discovery and for linking.
But there are other well, let's start with the CDI concept with the because I know there are a lot of different features for the CDI activations, but if you activate it like this, then what exactly do the users see?
Okay, before we go into all of the advanced settings, let's first introduce some very basic CDI concepts. From a user's perspective, there are two types of records that appear when they execute a search, when they type something in the search box. The first type of records are what we call available. And those are records that are flagged as full text available. You'll see that here in the screenshot I marked it. It's the green says full text available. So those records are available. They're one click away from the full text. The second type of records are searchable, and they are records that are not available in full text. They are marked as no full text. The user can find them, can search them and find them, but they're not directly available. They need to do an ILL request or find the paper version of the book. Now, so this is important, available versus searchable, or full text available versus searchable. And then there's also two types of searches that you can do using the CDI search box. The first is what we call the filtered search. And this means that the search results contain only items that are available in full text. So they're all flagged, all the records are flagged as full text available. That's the filtered search, so it's filtered by availability. And the second type of search is the expand search. This is a search that's expanded to a lot more than what you have in full text. So it's everything that's available in full text, of course, plus everything that is searchable. So records that are flagged as no full text are searchable, but are not available. So in this session, what we want to do is we want to show you how you can control what is available and what is searchable, and what records will show up in the filtered and in the advanced search for your users.
Oh, okay. But in any case, these both options are available once the simple activation is being done.
Correct, correct. But let's, before we go into more details, let's go to the next slide and introduce the two types of activation models that exist for all the customers that we have around the world. So we have two settings. One is called Easy Active and the other is Fully Flexible. Now, for full text settings, so full text available settings of records that are available, the settings are exactly the same for Easy Active versus Fully Flexible. You activate in Alma 360 or SFX, and that way you control what is available and shows up in your filtered search. What is different is the configuration of what is searchable and shows up in the expand search. So this is different between Easy Active and Fully Flexible. In Easy Active, all the content is automatically searchable. You do not need to do any search activation. There's a few exceptions where, and they are listed here in this slide. So you do need to do some activation for subscribed ANI databases. These are databases that are not free for search. You have to actually have a subscription before you can search them. We can't turn them on for everyone in the expand search. Only if you subscribe, you should see them. And also there's some collections that are only relevant for a very specific region or a specific institution. Those also will not automatically be part of your expand search. So, but those are exceptions. For Easy Active, you don't need to do anything for search activation. Your expand search will expand to everything in the CDI index, except for the small exceptions. In the fully flexible setting, you have more control over the searchable records. You define which collections you want your user to see in the expand search with the indication no full text. This means, however, that you need to do a little bit more work. You need to do an extra step, so you need to do some search activation. This will make sure that the records appear in the expand search. The two settings are available for Alma customers. Most existing Alma customers have the fully flexible settings. This is because they migrated at one point from an older system, and that had this control. Most of the new customers, because it is much easier, you don't need to do any search activation, will get the Easy Active setting. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's much clearer now. Thank you. And let's look now at the more advanced activation settings.
All right, so you will need these settings only if you want to go beyond the basic configuration. Just to keep in mind, single activation means the settings are okay if you just use the activation wizard. But let's look at some of the advanced options, keeping in mind that not all of the options are available in all of the products. But these are, this is a screenshot from Alma.
Mm-hmm. So what I see, like there are different advanced options here, but I'm not really sure what they mean. Can you maybe explain?
All right. So the first one that we can talk about is the CDI only full text activation. What is it and when should you use it? You can use this option if you want your library. If your library wants the collection to be discoverable in CDI, but you don't want it to appear in your Primo local index as a BIP record, or you don't want it in the Alma services page. So it allows you to suppress the Alma BIP, but still get all the full the CDI records. So this is the CDI only full text activation. Another option is the option that says do not show as full text available in CDI, even if it's active in Alma. Turning this option on will prevent records from the collection from appearing in CDI. It's like you take them out of CDI, the collection will still appear in your Alma services page when you're coming from other platforms like Google Scholar, but not from Primo. So you can use this option if you want to exclude specific collections with low quality data in your discovery but you want to prevent duplicate ebook results for blended scopes if you prefer your local BIP records instead of the CDI ebooks. So this is the second one, sorry, the one that's listed here first. Now let's look at the third option, and that is, sorry, the first one, it says we subscribe to only some titles in the collection. This setting is used to indicate how you subscribe to a collection. If you set it to yes, and that's the default, CDI will use the portfolio activation from ALMA to know which records in CDI to flag as available full text. However, if you set it to no, CDI will make all the content, and that's what's used here, CDI will make all the content of the collection available as full text, ignoring any portfolio activation. So this is an indication, do I subscribe selectively or do I not subscribe selectively, but buy the whole package with all its content. So these are the advanced settings in CDI. Again, only need to be used if you want something special. Normally they're set by default to be correct for per collection. No need to look at them.
So these advanced options actually mean that librarians have more control on what the users see with the ALMA resources and the CDI.
Correct, correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Let's look at the next slide. And it's a bit of a full slide, but it gives a complete overview of the activation and the impact on CDI, and it includes the settings that I talked about in the previous slide. So this one is about full text activation, and the next slide will be about the search activation. So this in one glance shows you what happens if a collection is active in ALMA versus when it's not active, and what its impact will be on the link resolver and on CDI. So on the left side, you can see what a collection looks like in your IZ, in your institution zone, when it's active in ALMA. And that is a little bit different for database types of collections without portfolios versus aggregator and selective collections which have portfolios, because for the aggregator and selective collections, you have to also activate the full text service and the portfolios. But if a collection is active in ALMA, it will have this blue icon, and the impact will be that it will show up in your uResolver, will show up in Primo Local, when you do a search in your local scope, and it will be included in CDI. And a collection is not active, that means it's in your IZ, but it's grayed out, and that's what you see on the right side of the slide. And then it means it will not show up in CDI, it will not show up in the link resolver, and there will be no BIP in your local scope. So the slide also shows the overrides. First of all, the override where it's active in ALMA, but you don't want it in CDI, and the other override, which is you don't have it active in ALMA, but you do want to have it show up in CDI. So those are the overrides. So this is a nice overview. Not going to go into all of the details, but this is a good reference to look at if you get confused about all these different settings. Let's go to the next slide, because we also have an overview for the search activation. Again, only relevant for fully flexible, not important for easy active, because you don't need to do any search activation. But what can you do in terms of search activation? A collection can be active for search, or it can be not active for search. If it is active for search, it will show up in the expand search. If it's not active for search, it will not be found in the expand search. So there's activation options. If you are fully flexible customer, you have these search activations, and this is what the impact will be on CDI.
Okay. I see we have one question. Let's pause. Where can I check if my ALMA is configured with flexible or easy active?
The easiest way to do it is to go into ALMA, and when you do a search for a collection, to check if you have this indication that says can be activated for search. There's a yes or a no. So it's like on the left side of ALMA in the filters, you have a filter for searchable, activation. And if that doesn't appear, that means that you are easy active. If it does appear, then you're fully flexible. Normally, that's also kind of when you purchase Alma, there's a decision on on which model to go for. But in Alma, you can also see it. If you're easy active, you do not have any activation options for search. So if you go to a collection, to the CDI tab, maybe we can go to the next slide, Tamara.
Okay.
It shows actually what it looks
Okay.
like. So if you go in any collection in Alma, then and you go to the electronic collection editor, so you click on edit, then you have a tab that's CDI, and if you're so this gives you a complete overview, and it's the first place you can find CDI information. And one of the things that you can see here is CDI search activation status, active, not active. If you're easy active, you will not have this option. So that's a good way. Now, if you this slide really was about talking about how can in Alma can you find information about CDI. So the first place to go is the CDI tab. In some cases, there's a lot of information here, and this means that this collection is indexed in CDI. So you get all the configuration options at the top. These are editable if you have the rights in Alma to make changes. And at the bottom, you see some more information about this collection in CDI. One of the first things you see here is the CDI collection ID. This is like an identifier for this particular collection in CDI. And so it's a unique identifier. It's important because it's really the connector between Alma and CDI. So if you activate the collection in Alma, what will go to CDI is, this customer has activated this collection with this DBID, and that way CDI knows exactly what collection we're talking about. So this is a connector. There's other information that's available to collections about CDI. There's things like how does the linking work in CDI? What are the search rights in CDI? Can you search it for free, or do you have to have a subscription to be able to search for it? Also, how many records are there in CDI, and how frequently we update the collection in CDI? So there's a lot of information here. If we can go to the next tab in this, so the second place where you can find CDI information in Alma is in the advanced search. And this is very useful because you can use it for filtering your search. So if you do a search in the advanced search for a particular electronic collection by name or by anything else, what you can do is you can, in the search field, you type CDI, and this gives you all the CDI filtering options that are available in the advanced search. So you can see you can filter by, can I activate it for search, but also all kinds of information fields, like how does the full text linking work in CDI, or how is the search working? Is it free or is it subscription? What type of collection is it? Is it an aggregator? Is it an ANI database, or is it a full text database? So lots of information that you can filter on. And then, Tamara, if you can tab to the next place in Alma, you can also find information about CDI in the Alma electronic collection result list. So if you search for an electronic collection, there's information there about the type of collection, but also there's CDI information. There's the DBID, for example, or how the linking works in CDI, etc. All kinds of things you can find. So these are the main places in Alma where you can find information about CDI for the collections that you're interested in. All right, I think we can go to the next slide.
Okay, so thanks a lot. That was I think that gave a very good foundation for the activation. And now maybe, David, can you perhaps share a little bit more about the records that are actually being retrieved after the activation?
Yeah, Tamar. Yeah, so this is a good shift, right, from the configuration and from the configuring everything to the actual content and the results that the end user will see. So indeed, one of the things that we are asked a lot is about the match and merge. Why do we have duplicates? Why we have missing, and so on. So I will try to explain a bit about why this is happening and what we are doing to make the results, tight and avoid duplicates as possible. So first thing is to understand that CDI is getting feeds from many providers, aggregators, and institutional repositories. So the duplicates are built in a way. We have a lot of overlap between all our resources. Just think that we are getting feed, for example, from, I don't know, Manchester University Press or some other university press, and also from many aggregators that have this content as part of their offerings. For example, ProQuest, Crossref, and so on. So this creates the duplicates. But we do want to have as much as possible because each source can give sometimes a bit of more better metadata, and sometimes, of course, when you talk about linking, we're getting the right and the correct link to each platform. So this is important data that we do want in CDI. So how do we are arranging everything to the results, to the record results? So we are trying to do match and merge based basically on identifiers. We are using DOI, PMID. This is not PN, but PM, I'm sorry, and ISBN and ISSN, of course. This is the most, this is the sure way to do a match and merge, but also here there are some mistakes. When you go down to article level, we also have the DOI and the PMID on the article level, but we're also using additional metadata, for example, the publishing date, the issue, the volume, and the pages, start page and end page. This is how we know that two versions of the same article are actually the same one. But CDI is mostly academic content. This is very important, but we also have a lot of other content. And when we look about this, a very broad area of non-academic content, sometimes we face with hard to identify content types. For example, patents, images, archival material, and so on. And this content usually will not have good identifiers. In these cases, we will avoid merging them because we don't want to create mistakes. So in these areas, we also know that these areas are mostly unique, for example, and it's not like academic content. In this area, we'll have only one, maybe two, but usually we'll have only one version of each resource. When we talk about CDI, we talk about also metadata inaccuracies, and this inaccuracy is coming from our feeds. Sometimes they can, and the same as they can affect the availability, as Levi described, which we will not mark this record as available, or will cause the link to fail. It can also affect the match and merge process. So this is also part, first, of the QA that we are doing when we ingest the content, and also part of the maintenance and the updates, and also all the good and hard work that our support team is working to fix the records. Last thing I want to say about this, that our thumb rule here is this: if we're not sure that this is the same resource, we're not merging. As we all know, and we deal with metadata, sometimes things are sure, but sometimes things are a bit cannot be really definitive. And in these cases, we will show two results than missing results.
Right. So actually, what you're saying is with the volume and the capacity of metadata that we're managing, inaccuracies are to be expected. But we have various measures to make sure that we merge and match and merge what is the same, but keep different separate records for things that may not be the same.
I agree, and the logic is really, evolving and developed all the time. Every time we find another thing to add to the match and merge logic to make it more accurate.
Okay, so moving on to the next part of questions and troubleshooting. So let's start with how does CDI know which records to flag as a full text available? And some things we need to keep in mind before we start, right? So leave it.
Yeah. So when you now that before we get to the actual questions in this session, I wanted to just list a few things. First of all, when you're keep in mind and when you're troubleshooting in CDI, especially via Primo and Primo V, first of all, it's best to be signed in, because some of the collections that you may subscribe to are only available to sign in users. So if you want to start debugging, then it's best to sign in, because then you can see those records. Otherwise, you would not be able to get to them. And secondly, what's important is that when you're troubleshooting collections that you activated for search and not for full text, you want to make sure that you use the expand beyond library collections option, use the expand search, because otherwise you will not be checking the full text, the search activation. You will get only those collections you've activated for full text. So 2 things to keep in mind. Also, I want to point you to a number of places where you can find out more information about troubleshooting and find answers to your questions. First document that I list here is a link to the tips and tricks document that we have for CDI, which has lots of questions, also ones that I took for this session, but more than that, with links to tools and lots of different pieces of information. There's also a whole chapter on CDI in the content corner part of the Primo documentation. And that's so everything about central discovery is in one place. So there's documentation and training available there. And also a third place where you can find information is in the ALMA documentation. For example, all the CDI related filters and fields that you could see in your collection editor and in the advanced search are documented in the ALMA documentation, and there's links here.
Okay.
All right, so let's now start with the real questions. The first one is about how does CDI know which records to flag as full text or as available for my institution? And when we talk about this, we need to look a bit at how CDI works behind the scenes. And this is going to be a bit more technical, but don't worry, you don't need to know all the details to get CDI working in your institution. This just gives you more background. So for people interested in knowing more, this is a good slide. It will also make clear how CDI really knows what records to flag as full text available. So the steps that you see here in gray are things that are needed before CDI can work properly, before your search box works well. So first of all, the first thing you need to do is you need to do activations in ALMA, SFX, and 360. That's the same thing. You need to tell ALMA what collections you subscribe to in your institution, or what open access collections you want to use. So once that's done, next thing is that all of these activations need to be published to CDI, and the mechanism for publishing is different for each product, but for ALMA it's done via a CDI publishing profile. So publishing in ALMA is a separate section. Make sure that the CDI publishing profile is active, and that will make sure that ALMA publishes the activations every day to CDI. CDI then harvests this activation data and does something which we call rights processing. Essentially, it's done to make sure that the activations in your institution are stored in CDI and are easily accessible when the user are doing the search. Keep in mind it takes between 24 to 48 hours before activations in ALMA become visible in CDI. So this is also important when you're doing troubleshooting or you're asking yourself things about activation. It takes a little bit of time, depending on when you do the activation and when CDI is going to grab the file. Now, let's see what happens if a user starts a search in Summon or Primo. Tamaria, now you click to the next one and also the next tab. So an end user fills in a search in Summon or in Primo, and the search is sent to CDI. CDI then uses the rights that it stores for your institution, and it will return both the correct records in your filtered and your expand search. Tamar, you can click two more times. Yeah, so either one more, so you get the filtered search and you get an expand search based on what you've activated in ALMA and CDI has for you in terms of the rights. Okay, so this is almost a complete picture. If Tamar, if you click a few more times, you get to the linking, one more, and the linking in CDI will either go via the link resolver, the link resolver or via the linking record, but in both cases, the user will go to the provider platform that is appropriate for your institution. So this is a complete picture of what happens behind the scenes. This is why it's important to do the activations, make sure that the publishing is set up so that CDI can process the information and make sure that when the user types in something in the search box that everything is in place to do the calculation. All right, so this was the first question. The second question is, how can I, more troubleshooting type of question, how can I find a CDI record for a specific ALMA collection that I activated for full text or for search, and to check that my activation in ALMA is working correctly? So I went to the activation wizard, I activated the collection, I waited a few days, and now ALMA is supposed to have published this information. CDI has processed it. So now my end users should see records from the collection when they do a search. So how can I make sure this is working correctly? The first thing you need to do is you need to look at the collection in ALMA, go to the electronic collection editor and find the DBID or CDI collection ID. In this case, I'm searching for Naxos Music Library, found it, and the provider, the DBID is CZN. So this is the code in CDI. I need that one. And then I can go to step 2. So next slide. Next thing you do is you perform a search in Primo. Any search will do, because the only really thing you want is you want to create a URL that you can then change and use as the basis for the next step. So I'm searching in this case in Primo for a composer. I search for Mahler, and then let's go to the next slide for step number 3. So I have a URL. I take it from the location bar at the top of my browser. This is the URL of the original search. It has a part of the URL contains query equals any comma contains comma and then my search term, in this case Mahler. And so you want to replace this with instead with query equals DBID contains and then the DBID that I took from ALMA. In this case it's Naxos and the DBID is CZN. So if I change this URL in my location bar according to what I just defined, and I press on enter, what will happen is I'm going to send to CDI a query that says, give me all the records that contain a DBID with this CZN, and that gives you all the records that are affiliated with this collection. So this is a very good way to check that you get records when you search for this newly activated collection in ALMA. So this is question number 2. Then we go, question number 3 is kind of the opposite. In this case, I get a record when I execute a search, or my end user could get a record, and you don't really know where this record is coming from. Why is it showing up in my search results? What collection activation is triggering this record to show up? So it's kind of the opposite. In this case, you have a record, but you want to know the collection. So how can you find out more information about this? There's 2 options. On the left side, there is the easy option, the quick and dirty way. And on the right side, you have the more advanced option. On the left side, what we recommend to do is to go to the full display of the records and to look, first of all, at the full text linking that's offered there and the source information. So on the in the links, what you very often see is the name of the provider, or sometimes even the collection of the that is activated. So this, if you link to the full text, then for sure the activation is clearly giving you an indication of which collection in ALMA was activated to trigger this record to appear. Another place is the source. So this typically gives you the collection or the provider that was activated in ALMA that will result in this record being returned. So this is the left side of the screen. This is the easy way of finding information about the activation in ALMA that caused this record to appear. On the right side, we have another option, and this is the more advanced option. We have a web tool, which is called the CDI Activation Analysis tool, which will that you can use to fill in the record ID of a specific record and your library identification, and it will analyze your own institution's holdings file, and it will return what CDI decided is the collection activation for this particular record. So it gives you a lot more information, and this is a link to the CDI activation tool. The tools and tricks page for CDI also has all the explanation of what this tool is used for, what it can be used for, and how to use it. Also, there's help information available in the activation analysis tool. What you do need is your library identification, which is either a PC key for Primo customers or a lib hash for Summon customers, and the record ID. And the record ID for the record you can find again in the location bar in the full display. You can find this doc ID equals, and that gives you the record ID. So this gives you the full picture of everything that CDI did in terms of writes, a calculation to make sure that you get this particular record. So this is the quick and dirty versus the more comprehensive information. All right, let's go to the next question, which is question 4. This is a question we get quite often, and it's about full text linking, because it's all very well to control what shows up in your search when a user types in a search box, but you also want to make sure that the linking to the full text, which they are very interested in, is going to work well. So how does linking work in CDI? Depending on the content and the type of collection, the Ex Libris content team will define the most suitable linking method to provide full text for a record. So it's the content team, and when they ingest a new collection, that decides what should be the linking. And this linking can be either via the link resolver or via the link, what we call link in record, which means the link that the provider put into CDI for this specific record. So it's really a URL that the provider gave us. Now, what are the criteria that we use to determine whether to link via the link resolver versus the link in the CDI record? First of all, we choose a link resolver mainly for selective and aggregator collections, where we have a stable linking syntax from the provider. The link that we can create by the link resolver is structural, is easy to create, and we have good identifiers in both CDI and in the KB, in ALMA or 360 or SFX. Why do we provide linking via the link resolver? Because if we link via link resolver, the institution has full control over the appearance, the order, and the logic for showing the links in the discovery full display. So you have display logic, you have all kinds of nice configuration for the link resolver. So this is very good linking. We do choose link in record in cases where it's difficult to create for the link resolver to create a nice and very reliable link, and also in case the record is uniquely available from a single platform. So the link in record, it means less control for the library, because there's no display logic, or there's less configuration that can be done, but it's a foolproof link in a lot of cases where the link resolver would have more problems for creating a good and safe link. So you see in the slide that you have link resolver and linking record. I haven't explained hybrid linking. So why do we have hybrid linking? We do this in case the part of the collection, we use it to improve accuracy, specifically for aggregator collections with mixed ID and non-ID content. So part of the collection is scholarly information, articles, books with good identifiers, where the communication between CDI and ALMA is good for the link resolver. And part of it is non-ID content. It's videos, it's newspaper content, or it's old historical content with no identifiers. And for those, the most stable link is the link in the provider record. So in those cases, we have what we call hybrid linking. Part of it is linking record, part of it is link resolver. In addition to these full text links, we also have some additional links that are not listed here, but you can see them in the screenshot. We have what we call quick links. Quick links are direct links to the PDF or the HTML version of the full text. They look a little bit different. And the idea is to have a single click from the result list. And we also have what are called document insights, which allow the user to get AI-enhanced full text links to ProQuest. So those are separate from what I just listed here. All right, a lot of explanation about linking. Let's go to the next slide and talk a little bit about, this is a more in-depth question about linking. How does linking work in CDI in case of merged records that David talked about, where full text is available from multiple providers? So which link do we pick in that case if it's a merged record and the institution has access to multiple copies of the record? So there's two cases. The simple scenario is where all the participants that are part of the merged record are using the same linking method, all link resolver or all linking record. Then that way it's easy. For the link resolver, we just show the links from ALMA, from the link resolver. So it will be an open URL link, multiple providers, so multiple links in the full display. And for the linking record, we choose the best available linking record link. So we prioritize providers, and we will make sure that links with the document ID, for example, are prioritized over metadata because they're more reliable. So we have a prioritization internally in CDI. Second scenario is where the library has access to some of the participants. Some of them have use link resolver for linking and others linking records. So what we do then is we have an internal priority where we prioritize first linking record links, because those are stable links from the provider and used mostly when there's only one provider available. So those are stable links, those are chosen. If we don't have linking record links for subscribed content, but there is a link resolver link, then we use that one. And the lowest in the priority in the hierarchy here is linking record links for open access content, because those are maybe a little bit less reliable than the subscribed content links or the link resolver links. So those are shown only if there's no linking records from subscribed or link resolver links. So this is the priority. This is all also documented in the CDI content corner. There's also a lot of configuration available. So you can, for example, in ALMA define that you, instead of having one link, one full text link, either linking record or one or more link resolver links, you can have a configuration to show all the links. So there's a reference here. So there's a lot of configuration available, and that's the all links configuration is link is at the bottom. All right, so that was question number 4. Let's look at, can you click once more, Tamar? Because, yeah. The 5th question is, why is there sometimes more than one CDI DBID per ALMA collection? So keep in mind the CDI DBID, that's the identifier in CDI for that collection, the connector between ALMA and CDI, and usually there's only one. If you look in either the electronic collection editor or in the electronic collection result list, you'll see one DBID, and that's the simple scenario. This ID is included in the CDI publishing to make sure that CDI knows which collection in ALMA was activated. Now, there are some cases where there is more than one, and you can see them separated with a comma here. In this screenshot, you see that. This is the case for hybrid collections. And keep in mind to find records for these hybrid collections. If you want to find a record, one of the first questions I talked about, just pick the first DBID and use that for searching in the discovery, and you'll find the CDI records. But there is more than one, and why is that? Let me give you some background on hybrid collections. So most collections in CDI are straightforward. All the content is available in either full text or as ANI records, as abstracting and indexing records without full text. So those are simple collections, and most of the cases this is the case. But some collections are a mix of full text and ANI records. And in that case, when you activate it in ALMA, the full text records will link via the link in the record, but the ANI records will use link resolver linking. This is because for the full text, we can just use the link from the provider, but for those records that are ANI, where there is no full text link, we still want to make sure that if you would have this particular book or journal from some other place, that we still offer a link via the link resolver, not via the provider, because they don't have full text, but through some alternative coverage that you may have activated somewhere else. So there's a mix here of full text links by the link in record, ANI records linking may be available via the link resolver. So this is an example, and because in CDI, the collections are identified via these identifiers called DBIDs, and the behavior is different for the two sets of records. We have the two DBIDs there. In other cases, collections contain a real mix of records, partly academic content, such as journals and books, and partly non-traditional content, such as video or images or historical content. And in these cases, the linking method will be per resource type. The article and the books will go via the link resolver because we can build a nice safe link. And the other part of the collection that's much more, that has videos or images, will use the link in record methods and go directly via to the platform without the link resolver involved. This is because it's in this case, it's the safest link. So this is another example of hybrid collections. All of this is done behind the scenes, but it just wanted to explain why you can have more than one DBID when you do a search in ALMA. No need to worry about it. There's a lot of information also available on these hybrid collections and how to activate them. So I put the link here with the information.
Okay.
All right.
So we have 5 more minutes, but I think we're reaching the last question here.
Yeah. I will briefly go over the last one, and that's a question that has come up, and that's why we wanted to touch on it. It's a bit more advanced. Its question is, why does full text indication sometimes changes between the full display, the brief record display, the result list, and the full display? And this is something that can be confusing, and this is why we wanted to explain it. It doesn't happen very often, but it may happen, and I wanted to just briefly explain why. So in the brief result list, CDI is using the rights information to determine whether full text is available for the institution or not. So this is the rights thing that I talked about, the publishing from ALMA. Now in the full display, Primo and Summon also use something called RTA, or real-time availability, to check for full text in ALMA and 360. And this is definitely the case for linking that goes via the link resolver. So what is the difference, and why is there a little bit of a discrepancy, or there may be a discrepancy? The real-time availability is an on-the-fly mechanism. So it uses the open URL and the metadata from CDI to match against ALMA 360. And CDI rights is something that's calculated once a day. So there is a little bit of a delay in this process, in the rights processing. So there may be some times when you've activated something in ALMA the rights has not get caught up yet, so it shows it as not available, but you go to the full display and RTA kicks in and will check and find full text there. Doesn't happen very often, but it may. Another reason is that there is a small difference in how we match CDI records with the ALMA and the 360 KB. For CDI, we use ISSN and ISBN in the holdings files for matching, and in RTA, we also sometimes use title match. So there's an additional identifier here that we can, or an additional key that we can use. Also, in some cases, in CDI rights, CDI settings such as the overrides are used, and that's not the case in case of RTA. So there is small differences that can explain. It doesn't, you will see it very rarely, but it is something that we sometimes see, and it's something that customers sometimes see. So I wanted to briefly talk about this. But this is the last question. I think we got to the end of the session. So yeah, the last
the end
slide
of the
just
session, and no more questions. Oh, I see one question in the Q&A. How can we avoid having two identical results shown in Primo for the same ebook for which we have a license for full text? One result coming from CDI and the other from the local activation in ALMA.
Okay, that's a very good question. It didn't cover it here, but you can find information about it in the CDI content section, content corner. What happens is that you have a blended view in Primo, so it contains both local Primo local content, and this means books that you catalog, and at the same time the blended scope also includes CDI records. It's a blended scope, so results are returned, and we do not deduplicate between CDI and local. There are some options that you can use, and they're documented in this page. I'll put the link in the chat. What you can do is you can either suppress specific collections. If you know I have good local records that are better than what I would be getting from CDI, then you can deactivate some collections in ALMA by using the do not show as active in CDI. So you suppress them from CDI and you just get them from local. That's one option. Another option is to use kind of a general option that says deduplicate ebooks, and in that case you suppress books from CDI, and you as one flag you just say I don't want any ebooks. So that's a more drastic option. So all of these options are documented in the CDI documentation, but so you have a number of options. It's not going to be a perfect solution because you just like match and merge uses keys to do deduplication, you have the same with the CDI records and the local records, and on the fly is harder to do than if everything would be in one index. So, but there are options that you can use to reduce the number of duplications that your end users will see. Let me also find that link.
David already added it in the Q&A, so thank you for that. And we're here at the top of the hour, so thank you very much for everyone who participated. The recording will be posted in the content section for the webinars, and hope the session was able to make make CDI more comprehensible and practices more convenient and understandable for everyone. Thank you very much for joining.